Hi there, welcome to video number 12, looking at the black square King Air, of course using X's and O's, the Stream Deck, the X-Touch MIDI controller, and this time also the throttle quadrant. So video number 12, I'm assuming you've seen some of, if not all of the other videos, so I'm not going to go into detail of what's in those. It's a bit of a mop-up video. I'm going to look at some of the loose ends, some of the things that I haven't done yet, and some things I've just done recently in between making the last video, and also look at how we make LEDs work on both the X-Touch controller and the throttle quadrant. So let's get into the cockpit and have a look at one or two things I have added to it recently. First one over here is the alternate air source, the static air. If I click on it actually in the cockpit, you can see there's an animation where it lifts the safety lever and toggles the switch. And if we go into X's and O's itself, I've done the read the LVARs. I've read all the LVARs in already. So if I go into scripting and look for a sim event, in these Microsoft input events there's a safety area, and here's where we can find the alternate static air. There is an input event for it, and of course opening it up we can see there's also a B variable to toggle that. So that's what I've put onto my Stream Deck, and I put it in the lower right area because it's not exactly the lower right panel, but it's in that part of the aircraft. It's on the side wall. So it's a toggle switch from X's and O's extensions right into that B event with a value of 1. We read that value back in again because we want to control this indicator here and it's not repeating. So if I press, let's get that script out of the way. If I press on the button in my Stream Deck, you'll see that the indicator comes on and you can see it handles the animation correctly. So that's working. And while I was here, I've also added in the emergency locator transmitter, which is over, it's actually on the other wall, but it's a convenient place for me to have it on my Stream Deck. So exactly the same idea, right into a B variable for the toggle for the ELT and read that value back in again. So if I press on the button, you'll see that's animating perfectly well. A few things I haven't done while I'm over here. I can't find the variable to change this between Celsius and Fahrenheit. This reads the outside air temperature. I found it for the internal passenger indicator here, but I can't find it for that one, which is a bit of a shame really. I'm not going to do anything with the breakers on each side. There's too many circuit breakers to make it worthwhile. You can see them well enough when they come out and it's easy to press back in again. So I'm not going to do any work on that. There's a few buttons here I'm not working on. This is to do with the gyro. I've never had to use it. If I do, it's there. Again, same here with the gyro modes. Perhaps I will one day, but not yet. The DME modes, it works fine for me in the default mode. These are controlled by this CDI button on the GPS, so I'm not going to actually animate those. And these buttons here that change what the which pointer does what. Again, I use it in default mode. Not really working with that. And this one here, the pull, which would change it to millibars rather than inches of mercury. I don't fly on VATSIM, so in Microsoft World it appears that everything is in inches of mercury no matter where you are, so I'm leaving that as is. I'm not doing anything with the radio panel. As far as I can work out, these are all dummy switches. Don't do anything on the Copilot side. Might be wrong there, but I'm looking at the coding behind it. They seem to be set as dummy switches. And these ones here, I don't use them that often. I use COM1 if I need to hear the idea of a nav or a beacon. I can switch them on manually there. And I'm not doing anything with COM3. I've got COM1 and COM2 at the top there. And here I've got a second ADF, but I've already got one here as well, so I'm not really going to worry about those. So pretty much everything else is covered now. So what else have I done recently? Let's go back to here. I've added a warning and caution cancel onto my X-Touch. So if I bring the axis and O's back in, it's on bank B. If I go to bank B and press the button, all I'm doing is I'm writing directly to that the variable, the LVAR, and you have to send a 2 to disable the warning. So it sends that. And the same idea on the master caution, you send it to the right variable. But what I've also done is I have written some scripts to use the LEDs that are on these buttons. Now each button is numbered 0, 1, 2, 3 up to 7 here, and then 8 to 15 on here. So it starts with 0, which just needs a bit of thinking about. They don't take any heed of whether you're in bank A or bank B. You have to write to those yourselves. So what it meant was I wanted to write an indicator light to see if I would show whether I was using this. It's linked to the megahertz and kilohertz. It's whether you're going to be controlling the comms radio or the nav radio. And I wanted an indicator to show which mode it was in. And that originally I had that down here and the cursor up here. But I can't use that light for both master caution and the indicator for that. So what I've done is I've just moved those two buttons around, and I'll show you how we do the LEDs in a bit. So I've got LEDs for here, here and here, and the rudder boost, the electric trim, the yaw damper. So I'm going to sort of show you how that's done. Let's get back into axes and O's. The best way to do this is to run it as an automatic script behind the scenes. It just runs continuously, because it's not going to switch this light on as a result of any of my actions. It's going to be switched on by something that happens internally in the aircraft. So we need to watch that variable. So what you have got here is the ability to have either global automated scripts that will come on every single time you use axes and O's, useful for setting variables that you need globally. But more interesting here is the aircraft automated scripts, ones that run just for this aircraft. And I've got two running in the background the whole time. One for the LEDs, which are connected to the Garmin 530 essentially, but I've expanded that now. It's anything to do with the Black Square King Air that's going to run on the X-Touch. And this one here are the LEDs on the Honeycomb yoke, the annunciator panel, and the autopilot. So I'll do this one first. We'll do the script for the King Air here. So this is it's a MIDI device. So what we're doing is going to write to the MIDI controller. Now this one here is based on the script that I've written for the CV push. So what I do is it's an input event. We write a 1 to the CV push, and it detects whether you're using comms or the VLOC mode to tune it with megahertz and kilohertz. But there's no variable that we can read here, so I've had to use my own variable, which toggles backwards and forwards between 0 and 1, and that's what gets picked up in that auto script here. Writes it to the MIDI. Now this takes a bit of explaining. We're writing that value over MIDI to device number 3, and so you need to know where the device number for your MIDI device. So in the hardware section here, we can ask it to show the MIDI devices. Don't worry about the MIDI in. It's pretty much always going to be 1, and it just, if it's not, it sorts it out internally. This is where we need to look. You may have other MIDI devices plugged in, so each one gets given an ID number. So mine is ID 3, so that's where we're writing to. We're writing to device number 3. We're sending a note on over channel 1. It's always going to be over channel 1. And I'm sending it to, as far as it's concerned, it's sending a note, over musical note, to key number 1. But in fact, it's this one here. That's 0, that's 1, that's 2. So we're writing to that bulb. So it's going to send either a 0 to be off or a 1 to be on. This is an experiment. I'm hoping that this will work when I put it into climb mode, and it will turn on bulb number 11. This is checking the yaw damper, and if it's on, turn on bulb 6. This is the electric trim, and this is the rudder boost. So it's just checking these circuits are on and lighting the lights up. This one here is looking at the master warning latching and turning it on if it should be turned on. But I'm actually sending a 2 to it, not a 1. If you look in the manual for the X-Touch, for the buttons, again it tells you which what note to send. You're sending a note 0 to the first switch here. It tells you here that if we send it the note with a velocity 2, that will automatically make the button blink. You don't have to write any script to turn it on, off to make it blink. It blinks automatically if you send a 2 to it. Okay, so that's what I'm doing there, to make it blink like it blinks up here on the glare shield. And then when it sends 0, it just turns it off. So you can have that script running in the background, but I also have made use of, let's again bring this up, let's get rid of that. When I press on the end here, it toggles between megahertz and kilohertz, or the inner or outer rotary that I'm controlling. So I would like that to warn me whether I'm in megahertz or kilohertz mode. So I've written a script here for the G130 for the megahertz and kilohertz toggle. Here's my toggle. So I've got my own variable that I use to work out which mode I'm in, and if it's in 0, I'm going to write a 27, and this time it's not a note on event, it's a CC event that we're writing. And it's going to write this to number 9 over the C using a CC. And this is 9, 10, 11, 12. And I'll try to explain where all this comes from in a second. So what this will do, 27 tells us to turn on all the LEDs around the outside, so it comes up lit up, so I know which mode I'm in. If I'm not in, that's for kilohertz mode. If I'm in megahertz mode, I write a 0 to it to turn all the lights off. So I do have an indication of whether I'm in the which mode I'm in for this. And again, the details of it are in the manual when we're talking about the rings. So it says the encoders 1 to 8 are actually addressed 9 to 16 here. So we're writing a CC event, and these are all the things you can do with it. You can turn all the LEDs off, you can turn on individual LEDs, you can make them blink. 27 turns them all on and 28 turns them all on blinking. So they're the things that you can send to it. Why it's 9 to 16 is because 1 to 8 are used to change how it looks, whether it's going to be just a single LED that lights up, or a fan, a spreader true. You can play with those if you like and see what they do. But I kind of use it just as standard, as in pan mode, and but this one will override that, and if you tell it to turn all LEDs on, it will turn it on, so you can control it better with that. I know it's a bit complicated, but there it is. That's what happens on that LED, on the LED. And I've done the same for my inner outer toggle. So device number 10 gets turned all on when I'm working with the inner button, and off when I'm working with the outer button. And I've done the same for the ADF as well, which is in this section here in the King Air. I've got my ADF toggle, so again, and the transponder toggle, so I know whether I'm working with the tens and units columns, or with the hundreds and the thousands, because that's how the toggle works. And if you haven't seen that video, that probably makes no sense to you at all. Okay, so that's controlling the bulbs and the LEDs around the on the X-Touch. Let's have a look at the control for the Honeycomb yoke, and that is run I dropped my mouse on the floor. That is run by this annunciator script. Again, just runs continuing in the background, and it's checking for the condition of various variables. And what it does is it kind of generates a variable by sort of adding to the bit, to a bitwise indication of which bulb needs to be switched on and off. And when that's complete, at the end of it, it writes it out to the device, and that's the ID of this. It's the human interface device. That's the ID for a Honeycomb yoke. So it's looking here. Firstly, I've got it set so that it's only going to work if we've actually got some voltage over the main bus. So if we've got voltage, it's going to then run this script here and work its way down. So it's going to look at like the parking brake and see if it's on and write this to it. So that's all the sort of general things. It's not great on the as far as the King Air is concerned. The annunciator panel is quite minimal. It's devised more for like a Cessna 172, but it's nice having to indication whether your parking brakes on and off. These are the bits I've added in. Again, I've added the master warning latching lights, because there is a master warning, master caution lamp on the annunciator. Can't make it flash. It literally just goes on or off. And I'd like to have the lights on the gear up, gear down. So that's how that's written there. There is on Lorby's website, if I could bring that up. If you go to the downloads page, a long way down the downloads page, lots of good stuff in here. It's worth having a look at it occasionally. They don't get announcements to tell us when they put anything new up. Here, there are some scripts as a zip of scripts for the Honeycomb LED, and I'll show you what they look like in a second. And this has just popped up. Somebody has actually done some templates for the Honeycomb, but I don't fly any of those aircraft, so it's been no use to me. And that might be something to explore later on. I've only just spotted that today. Some packages for the LVARs. But this is the bit I'm talking about here, these scripts that you can download to control the LEDs. And it looks like this. If we go to the Honeycomb Bravo section, you've got what you would have to write to turn all the lights on, all the lights off, and then for each of the lights you can see what needs to be written to turn on. That's the anti-ice lights on, that's it off. So you can see what needs to be written to make these things work. Turn things on and off, and it has got if I can find it, it's got some master templates. So it's got kind of a default one you can start playing with, so you don't have to go through and really write it from scratch. This one here is the master. I've wrapped the if statement so that it only works, they only light up if you've actually got the battery switched on or you're generating electricity. But you could use this as is. You do need occasionally to change some of the variables that turn it on. Different ones have different settings for whether the hydraulic pressure light should come on or not. Each aircraft has got a different setting for where it considers that light should appear. So you might need to do a bit of exploration for that. And again, here's a kind of list of the values that you need to make things turn on and off. So it's worth having an explore on that. If I go back to my script again and just show the very last part of it, which is in the King Air annunciator. So that's controlling the actual annunciator, but I've also got here the lights behind the autopilot as well. So if the heading lock is on, it turns that on. If it's in nav mode or approach mode. So there are LEDs behind the autopilot as well, which are controlled from there. Oh, I think that's about it. So I think we've mopped up all the other bits that we need to. So probably the next thing is a test flight and see if it all works, and I shall see you in the next one.